So today we're going to be tying a green drake mayfly. This will be a dry fly, but it's got kind of a unique wing to it, so it doesn't have quite the hackle on it. So I thought we'd give it a shot. I've got a 14 TroutFly hook here in the vise. Pretty sure it's fulling mull if I went and looked, but I'm too lazy to go look right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring that thread on down just to create a little base here towards the bottom of the fly. And I'll take a few more thread wraps to get us back to about where the barb of the hook would be. If the hook had a barb, and it's a barbless hook, so it doesn't. So we've got this 14-aught kind of creamy yellow shear, and we've got our thread attached to our hook. The first thing that we're going to tie in is material that I actually have not used before, so this will be kind of a first, but we're going to use some black bear hair. At least that's how I saw the pattern tied. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and tie in my next material, which is going to just be a piece of small gold oval tinsel. So I will go ahead and put this in on an angle and rotate my bobbin counterclockwise so the thread isn't fighting me. And I'll take a wrap or two just to make sure I've got it in place. And from there, I'll just pull on that tinsel until I get it about the length that I want, so I don't have to cut it off. I don't mind it helping us build in a little bit of extra bulk, so I'm okay go ahead and letting it sit on there like that. Nearly all the way to the eye, which is interesting. So at this point, we're going to come back down towards the back end and get this this piece of tinsel tied in here, where it's going to start, and pretend that it's ribbing for our fly. You may smooth things up just a hair here, just going back and forth over it a couple of times. I'll be able to accomplish a lot of the taper just by the dubbing that I use. So we're going to get pretty close down there towards the end. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little bit of wax on here momentarily. Then I'm going to reach over, and I'm actually going to use squirrel dubbing. This is just a pack of squirrel dubbing here, and I'm going to use this kind of an olive color. I'm going to pull myself out a little bunch of it. I like it. It's kind of like rabbit with the guard hairs and that. A little bit can be a little bit coarser. And we're going with the theme since this is the green drake. It would make sense to do it this way. So when I'm working with my dubbing like this, I try to make it a little bit chunkier down here than it is up here. And that way, when I lick my fingers, wax my thread, and I start dubbing this onto the thread, I end up with a dubbing rope, dubbing noodle. Anyway, because of how I prepared ahead of time, it's much thinner down here near the shank of the hook, and it gets a little bit thicker as we move up, which is great because we're building a tapered body here. So we're just going to go ahead and take a few wraps here until that dubbing actually starts going down. And then once it starts going down, I'm going to go ahead and just start moving up, and I'll reach in and tighten that dubbing from time to time. You'll see me just kind of reach in with my fingers. Most of the time I'm not even aware I'm doing it, so I guess I apologize in advance for something that I'm really not overly keenly aware of. I'm going to stick on just a hair more squirrel. So I guess it's not a hair more, it's a little squirrel more squirrel. Looking it up at this point. All right. If you want to fill that in just a little bit better, there we go. And I am much happier with that. Okay. So we've got a kind of a nice buggy body going here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this oval tinsel And I'm going to start taking kind of open wraps, moving up the body. So I'm going to go ahead and take this up even a little bit further. None of this will be showing. I have a little bit of excess tinsel, and I know I'm going to have a pretty thick spot right there. Just throw a couple of wraps down there to give me a little bit of extra weight. So we're going to put a little bit of a wet hackle on here, and I'm going to use this grizzly feather here. It's grizzly because it's kind of barred yellow and black. Kind of an off yellow just to match what we're looking at here with this fly, which is kind of olive with some yellow in it. So what I'm basically going to do, I've already used the tip section of this for another fly, so I just cut it nice and even, and I am going to try to get this as best as I can in my hackle pliers like that. Then I'm going to get my fingers a little bit wet, and then I stroke down while the tip of it is still secured there in our hackle plier. And what this is going to do, first it's going to help us already moisten these, and they're going to need to be moist anyway. I can take my hackle plier off now. I'll set it aside because I'm going to grab it here in just a second. I've got a nice little triangle now here up at the top that was held by the hackle plier that can now turn into a pretty decent tying in point for the soft hackle. So there's that triangle that we created. I'm going to spin my thread counterclockwise just so that I can make sure that that thread wants to go backwards on me and not forwards on me. We'll take a wrap or two that are not too tight but fairly tight, and then I'll just go ahead and take another couple of wraps backwards. I'm going to take a couple of wraps forwards in front. So we've got it just about like so. I'm going to sneak in here with my scissors, and I'm going to cut that little tip that we'd use to tie this into place. I'm going to grab my hackle pliers once again, and I'm going to grab hold of this hackle feather a little bit further up now. So now I'm getting closer to where it was by the skin. And I'm going to hold this kind of straight up. Tight enough that it stays kind of tight, but not so tight that you're breaking. You certainly don't want to break anything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet my fingers and try to pull this material, fold it towards the back of the fly where you can. Then I'll just go ahead and take a single wrap with that. Once I've got it back up that far, I'm going to go ahead and again wet everything before I take my next wrap. Just each time I'm going to go to try to pull all of what's tied on backwards as well as what's on the stem for the next spin around. So this one, after this one, this will probably be our last go around right here. And I'm going to go ahead and still stroke that backwards a little bit. My goal right at this point is I want to capture the stem of that feather that we've been using without trapping either any or too many fibers. And so you can see I'm just kind of moving that feather around in a way that, you know, keeps that feather a little bit away. Now that I got behind it, which was kind of most important, now I can pull. Actually, what I'm probably going to do is I'm just going to let this go from my hackle plier. I'm just going to wet my fingers a little bit and make sure everything is still pulled backwards, and, you know, take a few wraps up here. just to make sure that we've got that nice and secured. And we've got material facing the direction we wanted to go. But for that guy. And he's finding friends. I think they're out to get me. Oh, anyway. So we've got that nice and into place. I am going to come on in here. That's what's kind of nice about getting these kind of removed from the hackle pliers right there, is because I really want this cut to be very specific, right where that stem ended. And that will help us keep that really nice kind of soft hackle look that we're going for here. So from here, I'm going to end up going a little bit bonkers. Not right here, but I've got a nice little brush here that I'm going to use to kind of try to tease out, you know, a little bit of that dubbing that we used on the body, just to give this a little bit of a buggier feel, and try not to beat up too heavily at all on those soft hackle feathers. You're going to want more. That's the challenge. I probably should have done it before I did the soft hackle, but I didn't, because I don't always think ahead. In fact, I seldom do. So here we go. I like that looking a little bit more buggy. We will do some cleanup so it'll look a little bit better. So here's where we're going to go really weird. So I just pulled out a pheasant, a ringneck, and a skin. It's like, gosh, I have all these feathers and I never use them for anything. It's like, well, let's use one of these really kind of cool looking ones here on this particular fly. I think I've used this on, can't remember if it's the Gart side hopper. After cutting that notch out, we're left with something that looks about like that. I get my fingers a little bit wet. I'm okay with these wings going a little bit beyond the end of the fly. I'm going to pinch it, but not pinch really tight, because I want a nice loose wrap around here. Try to keep that wing in close enough place as I possibly can. And then from there I can make adjustments to it. I don't know quite what to think of it. I'm almost turned on by it. That's not true. That was just me being silly. We're going to go ahead and finish it off anyway, one way or the other. Actually, it's kind of growing on me here for maybe by tomorrow. It's all, you know, go try something new. So I've got my head going on here. I'll grab my whip finisher and we'll finish this fellow up. And there you go. Really interesting green drink variant, especially since I dropped the playbook halfway through and said, hell, let's go with some pheasant right there. Can always use some more pheasant. Anyway, one more use for your pheasant skin.